So hopefully you followed my advice and didn't sow anything in December, but I sowed quite a bit in November, so I thought what we'd do is go back and take a look at some of the stuff that we sowed back in November, see how it's progressing now, pricking some stuff out, potting some stuff on, and yeah, I gotta say I'm quite pleased with the progress. Some of it's ready for planting as well, which I'll be doing pretty soon as space opens up in my coal frames and load tunnels and polytunnel. So let's take a look. So I'm in my workshop today and I'm just pricking out these little seedlings. I've got some Marvel of All Seasons, some Calabrese Marathon, some Navarra lettuce, and in theory I've also got some cauliflowers and some sprouts, and in both cases these are old seed packets, so a couple of years old, and they don't look good, do they, by comparison with the Calabrese, which gives you a good kind of reference for comparison there. So I've got some more fresh seeds for the sprouts, and I'm going to get those going. I do have some sprouts already that are in the polytunnel, growing away quite well, but I always like to have spares. I haven't actually got any spares, so I am going to just do another little tray of them. The seedlings out with a bradawl. It doesn't really matter what you use, they're very resilient. You don't really want them much bigger than this because that's quite a long root. And I'll just pop them in the hole, just pop them in with my finger if I need to. There we go. So I've pretty much finished those that were in there. I've just got a few spares here. I'll take that label though. And I'm really pleased with those. At one time I used to always direct sow my lettuce because they germinate very well. I mean direct sow into the modules. But now I actually really like pricking out. I quite like the process, and I just like the consistency of it as well. And you know, any legginess in the seedlings is addressed by planting them nice and deep. Anyway, these will go in a coal frame, most likely, in, well, either in December or early January. Depends on when I get some space freed up. I actually quite like sowing my spring lettuces at this time of year, rather than using the overwintered lettuces as my spring lettuces. In most cases I find that they're healthier plants in spring when you sow them later, and obviously these little seedlings are very resistant to frost, so they can be frosted many times and they're perfectly happy, whereas the more mature the plant, the less it likes being frozen. And what else is there to say about this? Oh, of course, different varieties. So I like different varieties in spring than the winter ones in a lot of cases. So for example, I wouldn't do Roxy as a spring lettuce, but it's a great winter lettuce, for example. So here's the Marvel of All Seasons. I don't like this as a loose leaf lettuce, but I quite like it when it hearts up, and so that's what's going to happen with these. In fact, we're leaving a lot of our lettuces now to heart up rather than just removing the outer leaves. It's just a killer on the back harvesting outer leaves like that. And what I found is that I just don't like the quality of the outer leaves as much as the kind of tender, crispy hearts. So we're still doing some with outer leaves, harvesting outer leaves only. Things like Grenoble Red is ideal for that because it doesn't heart up very nicely. But yeah, more and more you'll see we're actually hearting things up just for the quality and ease. And although obviously it takes up a little bit more space, we have plenty of space. So these are the Calabrese, nice and leggy. I quite like brassicas that are nice and leggy. So I can get them planted really deep in the pots. I'm going to try some different sized pots for these because I've got plenty of plants. I've got enough space under the grow lights. So yeah, so that's a 9-cell pot, 9-cell tray. And the reason I've done them in different sized trays is that I just want to see if there's any difference in the growth rate, but also hopefully get a little bit of a succession going, because all these are going in the polytunnel. I want to harvest them over a reasonably long period of time, so I'll pot them on at a different time, and I'll plant them out at a different time. So hopefully they'll all be planted out by the end of February, and so hopefully they'll all be harvested by the middle to late May, when I'll be putting the tomatoes in. So it's quite chilly at the moment, so I've got some nice tepid water for these plants, and I never water from the bottom. I know some people swear by watering from the bottom, but in my experience, compost is far too saturated when you do that, especially at this time of year. You don't want everything saturated. Just a nice top water. I will start bottom watering, but only once the plants are maybe 3 or 4 inches tall. When I water the lettuces, I've taken to doing it a different way now. I water the centres, so I'm trying to avoid the actual lettuces themselves. So I'm watering along the plastic. I don't really know whether this makes any difference, but I've done it for the last year, and I've had such good success with my seedlings that I've just stuck with it. And of course, it's just totally anecdotal, and whether there's any actual benefits to it, I'd have to do an experiment, and I just can't be bothered to take the risk. It definitely doesn't hurt them anyway, that's for sure. So there they are under the grow lights, and I've taken to just putting this little block of wood underneath the plastic covers, because it does actually get quite warm here, even though this is unheated, this workshop. It's still still pretty warm, and so I did have a few problems when I didn't have the little blocks. I think these vents are just not quite enough to keep up for a cool weather crop like lettuce and brassicas. So I've done the same down there as well. And this light here is a spider farmer, and this one has the advantage that you can turn it down a bit, so it's turned down to about 80% of its maximum, which seems to be fine for the brassicas. The lettuces seem to just lap up as much light as you can throw at them, so that's the Mars Hydro light. So now I'm doing the sprouts, and I'm doing quite a lot of them because sprouts are a really important crop for us. We grow them for the leaves, and I've got 1,000 seeds, so I'm going to put quite a few in here. I only actually need, I don't know, how many do I do normally? 27 plants, but I might do 2 beds of them, so I might need double that. Anyway, there's plenty of seeds and there's plenty of space for them, and we do get sprouts as well off these plants, but we get them in July, and then we'll take the tops off, so we get sprout tops as well, and then we'll pull the plants, I don't know, sometime in July, early August, something like that, and get a second crop in there. So there we go. That's going to look like a tray of microgreens when it comes up. I think I must have put about I don't know, 80 seeds in there, so hopefully there'll be enough. And I think I'll come back and show you when these are up and ready to be pricked out, and then we'll look at how the lettuces have progressed as well. I'll be moving these into the conservatory in about a week's time. I like to wait until they've got a reasonable amount of leaf area, because it's quite warm in the conservatory and there's not quite as much light, and so the plants need a good amount of leaf to absorb the slightly lower light levels that we've got in there. Otherwise they just get a bit leggy, because there's too much warmth and not enough light. But once you get a decent amount of leaf area, then there is enough light for the amount of warmth. So that's the kind of trick with grow lights. Keep them cool with lots of light until you get a decent amount of leaf area, and that's the same down here with these calabrese. They need a bit more leaf area, so they'll grow on cool in here for a while. And here's those little lettuces. So these are the marvel of all seasons, and these are the Navara. So these, let's just see how old they are. 23rd. So basically these are 4 weeks old now, and don't they look nice? So this is the advantage really of grow lights at this time of year. And I'll just remind you that these are only on for 12 hours a day, grow lights, in the cool. And so that was the perfect balance, cool air and lots of light. Give us these really nice, not leggy at all, seedlings. And so these are going to go in the polytunnel now, and they'll harden off in the polytunnel, and then they're going to get planted out sometime this year anyway. I'm not exactly sure, in the next week or so. They're looking pretty good. I'm really quite pleased with those. So it's been a couple of weeks since I pricked out these seedlings, so let's take a look at them. And these are the ones that need pricking out now. These are those sprouts, and they look really nice. I'm very pleased with those. And those are the little calabrese. They're looking quite good too. I'll be taking those to the polytunnel soon. They don't really want to be on the grow lights for much longer, because I don't want to plant them out until February, so they'll grow on to twice that size by then. These look pretty good. These are the ones that I didn't prick out. Anyway, let's get on with these. So I'm really quite shocked to see the difference in the quality of these Brussels sprouts by comparison with the old seeds that I sowed. These are like 3 times the size. They just look so much healthier. It's quite surprising. It really is quite surprising. Anyway, I'm going to put these in this tray here. I've just pricked a few of these out, and they've got a lovely little root system on them. It's a bit of a matted mess here, but you can sort of tease them out, so they're not too bad. So there's the Brussels sprouts pricked out, and there's the calabrese marathon, just a few of the spares that were in that tray there. So that's all done, so I'm just going to pop the covers back on those and we'll be done. So I've just got to stress that those Brussels sprouts are not my main crop sprouts. These are early plants that will be harvested for leaves in May. Absolutely perfect for the hungry gap. Sprout leaves are the most wonderful leaf, really lovely. We steam them mainly, but you can use them in all sorts of different ways. They are one of the healthiest of all of the brassica leaves and really prolific when sown very densely. By that I mean between 16 and 24 plants per square metre. So that is not a lot of space, and basically that means that the sprouts just throw up a huge amount of leaf growth. Not many sprouts and then later on in the season, about July, you take the tops off, you eat the tops because they're gorgeous, and you'll get some sprouts as a bonus probably in sort of mid-July, early August. Then I take those plants out and put in my follow-on crop. And so yeah, so it's a great, I think it's a great technique for brassica greens in the Hungry Gap. It's a really nice complement to, say, spring cabbages and things like that. Much more prolific than spring cabbages as well. So yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting those lettuces planted. It's nice to be doing a bit of planting at this time of year. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.